Hey everyone, it's Stacey with NutritionJobs. Welcome to another edition of Dietitian Career Success. I have with us somebody who I have admired for a very long time. She is in the area of diabetes. She's a diabetes educator, influencer. She wouldn't call herself this, but she's like this mega star person that and her partner have been just like tremendous in our field in nutrition, diabetes, and podcasting, and out in the media. Please welcome Wendy Lopez. Hi, Wendy.
Oh my God, what an intro. Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm
Oh,
honored.
I'm thrilled that you're here. You're a great resource for dietitians, I think, to sort of see from the inside, like what we can do as dietitians to reach a lot of people. And I think both you and your partner, Jessica, have been really, really helpful in this area. So I think I think you can just tell us maybe a little bit about your background and some of the
Yeah.
work that you're doing. I'd love to hear it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Jess and I, who's also a dietitian, one of my best friends, we started working together over 13 years ago. We created a brand called Food Heaven. And it is a multimedia platform. We explore the intersections of wellness, culture, social justice. And we've done so much throughout the years. I mean, it started off as like us just doing like cooking demos at the local farmers market in New York City. And from there, we got on a local channel in Brooklyn and we were doing nutrition education just like on a local level. And then we decided to put videos out online. And from there, it just kept growing. We eventually had a podcast and we've done so many partnerships, spokesperson work, nutrition writing, recipe development, like just so much throughout the years. However, we did pivot recently because in the 13 years of doing this, and us just getting older and becoming more seasoned in the field, we became burnt out. It was a lot of social media work. It became less enjoyable, and we didn't want to have to always show up physically for the business to run. And so, even though Food Heaven was like extremely successful, was very profitable, we decided to pivot and launch Diabetes Digital earlier this year because we wanted to create something that aligned with our interests, and we both work really well together. So we still wanted to figure out a way to do business together. But yeah, just like at a different capacity.
I watched you make that pivot because I subscribe to all of your stuff.
Oh,
I
yeah.
Yeah, watched the pivot and I just marveled at just the eloquence, just the friendliness, and how the brand sort of morphed into meeting the needs of both yourself, taking care of
Yeah.
yourselves as business owners, but also still meeting the needs of all your special clients. And I think you have a sort of a special mission, the two of you together. Maybe you can share a little bit about that because I think a lot of people take on diabetes in a different way or in a unique way. And I love sort of the way that you approach it. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're both diabetes educators. We've both personally been affected by diabetes. We have loved ones that have diabetes, and also like over 50% of the population has either prediabetes or diabetes. So it's something that someone that we know or ourselves have been impacted by. And as diabetes educators, we like when we were working in clinical settings, there weren't any resources that we felt very confident in recommending our patients. So we were like, oh, this isn't really like culturally competent to the needs of, who we're referring to, or there would be like language barriers, or it was just very tone deaf. Like, like some of these things just weren't accessible to people. And so we wanted to create something different that would be something that we would feel very comfortable and confident referring someone to who has prediabetes or diabetes. So that's where Diabetes Digital came in. And it's a nutrition telehealth platform. We provide care for people with all types of conditions related to insulin resistance. So type 1, type 2, gestational, prediabetes, PCOS. And it was really important for us to accept insurance. I know a lot of dietitians who get into private practice, they might do like the self-pay option because it's a lot easier. But we wanted to accept insurance just to make it accessible for most people because it's hard to come out of pocket for these services. Like they're pretty expensive for someone who is, I mean, really for someone even middle class, like it's still like a significant expense. And the good thing is that once you do the hard work of getting a network with these insurance companies, a lot of people are covered for unlimited sessions. They don't have to pay out of pocket. And so it took us a while to get that running, but I'm happy that we did because now we're able to see a lot of people, a lot more people than if it were just self-pay. And we do take on a weight inclusive approach. With diabetes nutrition, there is an emphasis on weight loss and restrictive dieting, and we're all about promoting habits that are going to be sustainable, that people are going to feel happy with long term. So that's the approach that we take on, which is kind of unconventional, I would say, in the diabetes space, but it's very unique to us.
I noticed that too. I noticed that, well, just looking at your platform, it's just so welcoming. It's just so, it doesn't feel like, oh gosh, these people are going to judge me. Not that most dietitians do that anyway, but like it's really outwardly apparent that this is the place that's going to accept me and help me and move me in the direction of just better health, and just understanding who I am. The empathy is so clear, I think, on all your
Thank you.
communication that you do, both in the podcast and also on your newsletters, and then also on the actual platform, the telehealth platform. So I think that's really special, unique, and I think that's really helpful for all the people that you're impacting. I'm always curious about what it's like to have like this partner to work with, the two of you working together
Yeah.
in your business. I can imagine. I would love to have that because I think it would be so great to always have someone that you're accountable to, and
Yeah.
also to get some new ideas and just to sort of move forward, maybe at double the speed. What's it been like, and what's been a sort of a like successful part of it for you guys?
Mhm. It's been incredible. Like, and honestly, it's really hard to find. That's what I have come across throughout the years of working together. It's like I see friends and family and colleagues who start businesses with friends, family, and it usually goes left. So I'm like, oh my God, because Jeff and I, we started off as friends, but I'm just so happy and grateful that we have a great working relationship. And sometimes we run into disagreements or challenges, but we're really good at working those things through. And it's definitely not for everyone. And you have to really vet the person that you're thinking about going into business with because it is very hard. And sometimes personalities clash, and you have to make sure that like the your strengths complement each other as well, which I feel like for us it's just been like a very natural fit, and it's not something that we thought too much about because we started Food Heaven when we were nutrition students, so we weren't thinking like from a business standpoint. It just like we just naturally got lucky with doing business together. But I will say it's like I recommend putting a lot of thought into who you're going to run a business with. If you're going to do a partnership, just make sure that it's a good fit.
I recognize that you probably both have your own sort of superpowers or your special skills. Like, what would you say is a skill that you have sort of inherently in you, and a skill maybe that you've developed along the way to be as successful as you have been?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm really good at logistics, doing like strategy, day-to-day execution. And so I do operations at Diabetes Digital, and Jess is the CEO. She does like strategy, big picture, business planning, because she's a lot better at that. She has a lot of big ideas, and I'm just like, okay, how are we actually going to implement this? So I make sure that like the day-to-day is running smoothly, that everyone has what they need to do their best work. I oversee a lot of like the recruiting, the onboarding for dietitians and other staff that we have as well. And in terms of like what skills I've cultivated, um, I would say the strategy for sure, because I'm very good at like the day to day and just kind of getting things done. But you also do have to kind of like step back and figure out like, okay, what are the systems that are working? Like kind of just zooming out, and that's something that I've had to like really hone in on and cultivate.
I agree with you. I think as a business owner as well, like it's really easy to get into the weeds and just
Yeah,
sort of almost function from a check off your to-do list standpoint.
exactly.
And you really physically have to like get up out of your chair and like look at what is the health of the business? What do my consumers want? What's my
Mhm.
client want? Like what's making money? What's working,
Yeah.
what's not working, what systems are silly that I'm still using, and which ones should I, and I think talking to other people, being parts of masterminds or whatever is a great way to get out there and understand what other people are doing. But I agree with you, like running a business, you have to like constantly look at what the big picture is. So I think anyone who is thinking about being an entrepreneur, that is something to keep in mind. But sort of going back to something that you said, if someone doesn't want to be an entrepreneur and would like to work for an established private practice, one, for example, yours, like you guys have built out this fantastic telehealth program and a platform for other dietitians to work with you. So you've got, how many dietitians do you currently employ?
So right now we have seven. We have two full-time, and then the others are part-time, doing over 20 hours. And we're hiring on a rolling basis because like we're growing really quickly. We launched January of 2024, and yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of work with like outreach and things like that, but we have been growing really quickly. There's a big need, so we're always hiring.
Okay, dietitians, did you hear that? She's hiring. I will share a link
Yeah.
down below how to work with them. She's got, you know, obviously an amazing platform and great people to work with, and so we'll link to how you can apply for jobs there. If someone were to apply, like what is sort of a standout? I mean, a lot of dietitians are so qualified, but each resume is different. Each person in the interview is very different. How can someone be successful? Either from the resume perspective or from the job interview perspective, like what really makes you happy when you see someone that has these attributes or skills or whatever?
Yeah, I think definitely experience working with people that either have prediabetes or diabetes is a pro because that's our focus. And so that is always helpful. I will say, I mean, with like type 2 and prediabetes, it's those skills are very learnable. Like type 1, it can get a little tricky because then you have to start learning all the different, medications and things like that. But we're all about supporting people in their continuing education. So we have like a lot of supervision that we provide. Most of our dietitians are actually not diabetes educators, but we're always like supporting them, and we provide resources so that if they want to become a CDCES, they can. But that's always helpful. Also, doing some kind of outpatient counseling because outpatient is very different from clinical, especially like private practice. The sessions are longer, the retention goals are a lot higher. And so for someone who's only done clinical, they might not be used to talking to someone for 50 minutes, 55 minutes in a session and seeing them every week or every other week. So it's definitely like, it's almost like you're a therapist in a way, exploring things like food and body image and culture and like just so many different things. And I think for some people it comes really naturally where they're just like really good at like having conversation and being very introspective and asking those questions. And for some people, it's like you just kind of have to develop that skill.
I remember that from when I did both inpatient and outpatient nutrition and thinking, wow, like when I was an inpatient dietitian, I would just like download all the data for these people and their
Yeah.
families on their way out the door.
Yeah.
And then when you go into outpatient, just like you said, you're spending so much more time with them and you're listening a lot more, which I always found super fascinating. You're listening a lot. You know, maybe in the first session you're doing a little bit of downloading, but like there's a lot that goes in there. Always so curious. Like, can you give me a little snapshot in a day in the life of like how do you organize your time? Like we sort of talked about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, but I'm so curious. Like, how do you spend your time? What do you focus on usually in a day?
Yeah. Every day is different. However, we have like regularly scheduled meetings and things like that, like team meetings, and I do supervision with the dietitians, and those are like regularly scheduled. But my days all look pretty different. However, they all revolve around improving systems, gathering data is a big one. So like I'm always looking at our reports, like our retention reports, our productivity reports. Also like the numbers that are coming in from our intakes and things like that, just to see like what are things that we can do to improve. Because I will say with having a startup, you have to act really quickly and you have to pivot really quickly. And so if you really like routine and you really like doing the same thing every day, it will definitely be a challenge to adjust to doing things this way because you have to always change based on whatever the needs are. And when you launch a new company, it's like the needs are ever changing, literally every single day. But I'm always like providing, gathering feedback and providing feedback with the dietitians, gathering feedback from our patients to see like what can we do better. I'll meet with our tech team just to make sure that like everything is working, because that's a whole nother thing. Like when you're running a telehealth platform, you have to make sure that like the website's running properly, the EMR is running properly, like all of the forms are functioning. It's literally like we have a position dedicated just for that because it's a whole nother thing. So yeah, it's just like a lot of that brainstorming ideas. We have a podcast, so also like, okay, what would be good to talk about on the podcast, and what's engaging for our audience, like all of that.
Oh, that's so good, Wendy. I love
Yeah.
hearing all these little details. I know everyone else does as well. Are there special tools that you like to use that you think are helpful both for running a business or just for dietitians to know about?
Yeah, so we use Gusto. I don't know if you're familiar. It's an HR platform for hiring, and it's so great because you can do so many things on there. Like you can gather documents, you could do time tracking. You pay people through Gusto. It's a payroll platform. You can do performance reviews. It sends you reminders. So that's a platform that we use. We also use Slack for communication, which I feel like I just like live on Slack. I'm like always on there. Communicating with everyone on the team. We use Practice Better for our EMR. And we used to use Healthy, but we were having some issues with this. So we transitioned to Practice Better, and it's been going really well so far. We use Canva for a lot of our graphics, which has been super helpful. Keep we use for like newsletters and patient communication. So we can like text and call through Keep. Active Campaign, I don't know if you've heard about, but it automates emails, which is really nice. So like when we do our outreach, we can automate all the emails, and it'll email people multiple times to like follow up and things like that when we're building relationships with like clinics or providers. So those are some of the main ones that we use.
Those are so good. And dietitians, like if you hear something in there that you have used before, make sure that is on your resume, your LinkedIn profile is
Yeah.
skills that you're familiar with, just Canva, even Slack, even. I think that's always helpful in just getting that first interview is person looking at your resume knows that you have some exposure to some of those platforms. So that's really helpful. What advice do you have for other dietitians or dietitians I have to say, like, just be as successful as you have been? Like, what advice do you have for them?
Yeah. I would say try to hone into what your interests are, because there's like so many people doing so many things, especially now that social media has really taken off. Like when I first became a dietitian, social media was really new, especially like Instagram, and everyone is on Instagram now. TikTok didn't even exist. And so it's easy um, to get interested in things that other people are doing where maybe that's not actually where your interest is. So I would say try to figure out like what are you interested in when it comes to nutrition, because there's so many different paths now. I think that the internet, social media has really like opened the doors for all of the different things that you can do. So maybe you're interested in women's health, or you're interested in diabetes, or you're interested in prenatal care. Like there's just so many paths that you can take, or maybe you don't want to do any kind of counseling and you want to do more communications, or something like that. So I would say try to figure out what you're interested in. And that can always change. Like clearly with us, before we had a whole nother business and now we're doing something different. So you can always, change it. But I think it's good to think about those things, and then you can seek mentorship and guidance from people that are doing things that are similar to what you enjoy. And we reached out to like some of our elder dietitians. I remember when I did my dietetic internship, the director of the hospital program, she was a dietitian, and she became my mentor, and she was so helpful. She was also a CDCES, and she provided me with so much insight. And I feel like it's really important to like talk to the older dietitians who have been in the field for a while. Yeah, and try to see like what is some information that you can use um, to kind of create your own path as a dietitian moving forward. So yeah, I would say that.
Those are so good. Those are so helpful. I think it's helping a lot of people sort of brainstorm, what direction they want to go into, and maybe
Mhm.
just giving them the permission to move in the direction that they really are interested in rather than what they
Yeah.
think they're supposed to do, too. I think, and it, like you said, there's just so many different opportunities. You just have to sort of think through how you're going to execute that. But there are a lot of examples of dietitians succeeding in so many different niches. I have fun just like finding people to interview because there's so many different
Yeah.
niches. There's so many different fun ways that you can express your expertise as a dietitian. Um, One other area that I'm always interested in for our profession is how we can make more money as dietitians. And I think you mentioned sort of briefly one, and that is getting your certification as
Mhm.
a specialist for you for diabetes, or if someone's in nutrition support, or all kinds of different things, sports nutrition. So I think that that is like a known way that you can have an percent increase in your actual salary. What are some other ideas that you have, and what's your opinion on how dietitians can make more money?
Yeah, I recommend diversifying your income. That's something that I did very early on. Whether I was working full time or part time, or I was doing contract work, I always had like a few things going on just to see like, is this something that I'm interested in? And if I am, like, how is this going to fit into my schedule? For a very long time, I did food heaven alongside a full time job, alongside nutrition writing. And that way you're also able to build up your resume too, because when you start off, you're not going to get like these big contracts or partnerships. It's good to build up that experience. So try to figure out like two or three things that you might want to do, whether it's like writing, recipe development, communications. You can also do private practice. Like now, there's so many different options for dietitians where if you want to just start out doing a few hours a week, there's a lot of platforms where you could do that through, just to get your feet wet while you do a full-time job or a part-time job. There's also a lot of online programs that dietitians do that I've seen work really well, like programs or workshops or like digital events and things like that. Um, Public speaking, content creation, and those opportunities can open the door for higher paying opportunities. Like I remember the first brand deal that we got, we had I mean, we didn't know anything. We were like, oh, we just threw out a number. It was so low, but we didn't know because we didn't have the guidance of any other dietitian. No one was talking about it. And then once we started getting more and more opportunity, we were able to command more money, and we were actually able to pay ourselves a very good salary. But it took time and practice and just kind of figuring out like, okay, well, what's my price based on my experience, and if you are interested in doing one-on-one counseling, you can also launch your own private practice. I will say, like, because our telehealth is a private practice. And now that I'm doing all of the behind the scenes work, it is a lot. Like I don't think dietitians like really um realize that before they get in. Like you have to do your billing, you have to do your verification, unless you're gonna hire someone to do that for you. You have to communicate with patients. It's really like a customer service role that you have to do in addition to running your private practice. And so a lot of our dietitians, like they came on because they don't want to do all of that. They're like, I don't want to recruit, I don't want to outreach, I just want to like show up and see patients. Um, but you can absolutely like launch a private practice as well, and you can slowly grow that out and then hire people to do all of that busy work for you.
It's so true though about running your own business. There's the business. There's like
Yeah.
what how you are of service. It's what you're selling, and then there's running that business. Like I think that was a sort of eye-opening to me because I started, like 24 years ago, and no one was talking about running. Not very many people were talking about running your own business unless it was a private practice, and people
Mhm.
just seem to like somehow do it. Or you worked out of a physician's office and like literally had a desk in their office, and either they paid you or their insurance, helped cover like, but it's a lot of work. So I love
Mhm.
that your business does hire dietitians, and you've given us some really great resources on how we can be successful working in an established private practice like yours, or out on your own. You've just given us so many great little pearls and tips. I'm very appreciative. I know everyone else will be too. I will give everybody lots of links to all of her goodies down below, and please do check that out. Anything else you want to add, Wendy? I sort of,
Yeah, that all sounds great. We're
yeah.
at Diabetes digital.co if you want to check us out. I know that you'll include the link there. And we are hiring, so if you want to join our team, I'll leave links too so that you can apply. And thank you so much for having me. I told you I've been on your newsletter for a long time now, and your resources are so valuable. Like, I wish that's something I would have had when I first became a dietitian. Your survey is incredible. Like, I literally just, I didn't even know that was there. And like
Yeah,
last
there it
week,
is.
I was like, oh my God, let me check this out. And it was so helpful. So thank you for everything that you do.
That's very sweet. Yeah, yeah. So everybody do check out all of her resources. And if you haven't already participated in dietitiansalaries.com, it's an anonymous dietitian salary survey for dietitians in the US, because we're just using US dollars so we can see what it looks like, apples to apples. So do take advantage of that if you haven't already. Wendy, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Okay, bye for now.